So welcome back, everyone, to Psalms for Life, in which we take a different chapter of Psalms each week and explore it by the light of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov and the other sages and tzaddikim. And we want to thank Esther Elagorovich for sponsoring this class. It should be a merit and a source of bracha for Esther Ella and her family. We are also dedicating today's class to the soldiers who are protecting and saving the Jewish people with Hashem's guidance and protection. And we're going to name a few of these soldiers. We're dedicating this as a merit to Aden ben Tamar, Nir ben Nurit, and Yehuda ben Livnat. At the end of this class, Rosh Hashem, we will be saying Tehillim together, and you can open your chat window, and we will be keeping people in mind as we say Tehillim. Okay. So Psalm 47 is a segula, just like last week's Psalm, for the end of prayer. Chas v'shalom, the end of all war forever. So we know that it is going to be another doozy, and it is. It's a really amazing, an amazing exploration of when people will accept Hashem's sovereignty over the earth. And this is the psalm that we say 7 times before the blowing of the shofar on Rosh Hashana. Now, the previous Psalm 46 was about defeating the nations who went against Hashem and Israel. This is about the inspiration the shofar is going to bring us when Moshiach blows it, and the times of knowledge and acceptance of Hashem during Mashiach's reign. Okay. So why do we repeat this psalm 7 times before the shofar is blown? So this psalm is loaded with gematrias and kabbalahs and so on. And David HaMelech took Korach's son's psalm and made it his own. We are told that this is a heavily redacted psalm of the sons of Korach. We repeat this psalm 7 times because one of the reasons is the name of Elokim, okay, which is the Hashem of judgment, okay, is said 7 times in this psalm. And 7 times 7 is 49. And 49 is the levels of impurity before the 50th level, which a person cannot turn back from. We are told that we were at the 49th level in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, when we were saved. And this psalm has the power to infuse us with the 49 levels of holiness that counter and defuse the 49 levels of impurity. So this is something, obviously, that we say on the Day of Judgment, on Rosh Hashana, in order to accept Hashem's kingship, and actually to crown Hashem king on Rosh Hashana, which, of course, is what we do on that day. Rebbe Nachman says that the blasts of the shofar on Rosh Hashana revitalize the soul and intelligence of every Jew. When we hear the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, we receive a new neshama and a new level of comprehension and understanding, each of us according to our level. And the shofar itself sweetens the severity of Hashem's judgment. And the blasts of the shofar contain or allude to the 10 types of song or melody that are contained in Tikkun HaKlali. And those 10 types of song, which we've discussed before, are another powerful purifying force. And the shofar is the same kind of force, the same kind of sound. Of course, it's one blast. I mean, it's a series of different types of blasts, but it's one blast, meaning that we don't hear necessarily the differentiation between the 10 types of song, but they're all jammed in there. Okay, so we're going to begin. Lamanat Seach Livnei Korach Mizmor. For the conductor, the sons of Korach, a song, a mizmor, a psalm. Kol ha'amim tik'u chaf, hario lelohim bikol rina. All you nations, join your hands, sound the shofar to Elokim with a cry of joy. Okay, so this can be translated as all you nations, join hands or clap hands. So if you remember from the previous psalm, the nations that survived the war of Gog and Magog, which was in last week's, 2 weeks ago's class, are going to come together to have knowledge of Hashem. And we want everyone to have this knowledge, okay? Yes, we understand that certain nations, the evil in them may have to be rooted out, but essentially we want the whole world to join together. Rashi says tiku chaf means to join hands, that they will be literally holding hands, calling out to Hashem. Others say it means to clap hands with joy. Now, I'm going to give you a little taste of some of how this psalm is packed. Chaf, palms or hands, is Gematria 100. And all the nations pass before Hashem in judgment on Rosh Hashana, and we blow the shofar 100 times. So there is a connection between the blowing of the shofar and the unity of the nations, okay? It's not just us that needs unity. The whole world needs unity. And the nations also need unity. Why? Because they need to be at peace. And we see today the threat of so many wars going on, obviously, and then we see the threat of so many wars around the globe, not just in one place or two places, but many places. We see all kinds of war, and this is the routing out of evil, the exposure of evil, so that good can prevail. Okay. And therefore, a lot of this is up to the nations as well, whether they're going to fight for goodness and accept goodness. Okay, and we saw this previously during World War II. There were nations who did fight for good. All right. Rebbe Nachman says about clapping. Okay, he has a few lessons on clapping. It actually has 3 lessons on clapping, and he says that a person that prays with such fervor, such devotion, that he claps his hands, and you'll see this in a Breslov shul, is given the words of prayer min hashamayim. Whether he's praying in hitbodedut or he's praying from the siddur, okay, whatever it is, whatever your prayers are in your own words or from the siddur, if you're feeling this urge to clap your hands, do so, okay, because it's a form of invitation of a verbal connection to Hashem. And also it sweetens harsh judgments, to be moved, to be inspired, to feel that connection to Hashem. If your prayers are tepid, okay, do what you can to invigorate them. We all go through phases, especially when davening from the siddur, when we're saying the same prayers over and over. Much easier on the one day of the year, on Rosh Hashana or the holiday prayers or whatever, to get excited. But it is hard day after day after day. Do what you can to invigorate yourself. Find points of inspiration within the service. Study the siddur, okay? The same with hitbodedut. I can't say hitbodedut gets old because it's always a fresh thought, a fresh idea, but sometimes we come to it with more inspiration, sometimes less. Do what you can to, to be inspired. And clapping your hands, meaning getting to that point where you're actually moved to just applaud, okay, saves you from spiritual forgetfulness and puts to rest strife and conflict in your life. There's something about being moved to that level, and also the physical action of clapping. Now, I'm not, again, going to go into all the details, but suffices to say that the Sephirot are represented in your hands and fingers, and when they come together, something very mystical is going on. You can look it up, or we can do a class on it another time, but something really is going on when we clap. It is an expression of joy that's unbounded and appreciation. So we clap our hands, the nations clap their hands, and we all join our hands together as well. About this calling out, the nations, this hariu, this is to sound the shofar, but it can also be read as simply, calling out, but it is related to teruah of the shofar, which the one of the sounds the shofar makes on Rosh Hashana. Now, Radak says that the nations are going to be more than reconciled with their defeat after Gog and Magog, because it's not a defeat to squash them per se. Okay, what it is a defeat to wake them up to the final acceptance of Hashem's sovereignty. We actually don't want to see anyone hurt, God forbid. We want to see people accepting that Hashem is in charge, and to experience his glory and to share it. Okay. So I do see questions, and we'll get to those later. I see them in the chat. They look very interesting. Okay. So the nations are going to be joyful because they will realize that they have a part in coronating Hashem and bringing the world to peace. They're going to realize that they're not just passive actors. They're going to realize that the Jews aren't doing everything. Okay, we're not going to be the only ones. They too. Moshiach isn't, yes, he's the king of the Jews, but he's not just for us. He is here to help us to really work on our own tikkun, so that we can engage more in revealing Hashem's glory in this world. We should be doing this now. We should be preparing right now for it. Okay, I'm going to continue. Gimel, verse 3. Ki Adonai Elyon Norah, Melech Gadol al kol haaretz. Because Hashem is most high, Norah, awesome, a great king over all the earth. So Malbim says that some of the heathens, some of the non-Jewish people, deny Hashem. The truth is some Jews do too today, but God willing, that's going to be corrected. Some people deny Hashem and say creation is due to the movement of the celestial bodies, that is nature. Okay, and when the sovereignty of Hashem is going to reveal, they're going to realize that Hashem is Elyon, supreme, the Most High. Others believe that Hashem created the world. Okay, this was the Greeks' view, by the way, which the West inherited this view. They do believe that there's a Hashem who created the world. They may define him in different ways, but then they believe he sits back and he doesn't get involved. He doesn't punish or reward. He's too great to be involved in piddling human affairs, which of course is crazy. Hashem is so great that he can be involved in everything. That's the greatness. The greatness isn't creating and sitting back and watching everything happen. So this is Hashem's quality of Norah, awesomeness. And they're going to realize, the nations, that Hashem is truly awesome. And that Hashem is a great king over all the earth. Over the earth, not distant, not far away, but the actual earth where we are, where the human beings are, okay? And when you think about this, there's this view of Hashem up in heaven, and if you have that view, then that's a kind of view that lets you off the hook, so to speak. Because if Hashem is just up there, then you don't have to have a relationship with him. Then you don't have to learn his Torah. And then you don't have to live anyway, but by impulse, go from impulse to impulse to impulse. We see something, I want to connect this to this week's Parshas Yitro. And Yisro was the priest of all idolatry. But when he heard the crash of the waves and the splitting of the sea, he recognized all at once that, Hashem is supreme. Hashem is here on the earth, because after all, he was involved in this great miracle for the Jews. And he ran to the encampment of the children of Israel. He ran to Moshiach. He immediately circumcised himself, and he said, teach me Torah. Tell me what I have to do. I recognize Hashem is great. Tell me, how do I live? How do I live now that I know this? And so many people have moments in their lives where they hear the call and they're very inspired. And then what happens? They forget. Oh, things return back to normal. Oh, things are going okay, so I can just shut out that part of myself. Listen, it happens to all of us in one way or another, and that's the truth. It happens to us either that we have moments where we're inspired to do more, to be more, to connect more, and then we have moments where we're not. And navigating that is something that our tzaddikim, especially Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, teach us. How to go with the ups and downs of not only our material lives, but our spiritual lives as well. Okay, let's continue. Verse 4. Excuse me, sorry. Yadaber amim tachatenu u'umin tachas raglenu. Okay. Hashem shall lead nations under us and regimes beneath our feet. Okay. So there's that Hashem is going to lead nations under us, meaning that he's going to make sure that we accomplish in the end our role, which is to be priests to the world. Right now, we're still in that role, but we're not as effective as we will be in the times of Moshiach. And he's going to gather together the nations who will recognize this. Okay, so who are these nations, these amim, and who are these umim, these regimes? So these refer to, it's very interesting. These refer to the nobility or the political leaders who are corrupt. They're the ones, okay, you notice that they're not necessarily being wiped out. They're going to exist, but they're the ones that are going to have to accept Hashem's sovereignty, if by force if necessary. And the ordinary people who followed them out of fear or just complacency are certainly going to be forgiven and liberated, because there's people all over the world living in absolute, look at the Sudan. I just keeps coming to mind what's going on there, but who are living in absolute control over fierce negative forces, and they themselves, some of them who are involved, are children who are forced into war, forced to be soldiers, and they're forced, they're innocent. So Hashem is going to subjugate the leaders, and the rest will be able to shed that corruption and be led. And these people will all be led by Israel and the Jewish people, because we are going to, using our Torah, not a constitution, not a Bill of Rights, but they're bad documents, but the Torah, we are going to be models of justice, compassion, and orderly governance. And that, for us as Jews, has to be based on Torah, okay? All the rest, we could see systems breaking down, but Torah doesn't break down. Unless somebody comes in and tries to corrupt it, such as various movements in Judaism, okay, that did try and succeeded to their own ends in some ways, okay? A lot of those movements are dying out, by the way, but if the Torah is said to stand forever, it does. And you can see this with people who cling to the Torah. It's something to admire and respect those who put Torah first. And hopefully, when Moshiach comes, we're all going to realize that this is the system Hashem gave us in order to live the best possible life on earth, not only for us, but for the entire world. So this is a very universal song, which is another reason why we say it on Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana isn't just the day of judgment for the Jewish people or the day of judgment for the world at large, but for people, okay, for nations. Okay, let's continue. Hey, verse 5, Yivchar lanu es nachalasenu, es gaon Yakov, asher ahev salah. So he will choose for us our inheritance or our heritage, the pride of Yakov, which he loves forever. So what is our inheritance? What is our heritage? What is that? Many answers come to mind. Judaism, Torah, okay, the Talmud. No. Our heritage and our inheritance, David is referring to here, is the Bet HaMikdash, okay? And Hashem is going to, he's choosing this for us, and he's going to return us to it when Moshiach comes. Then the Jewish people are all going to return to our land. And we're going to live as Jews should, not because we're forced, because our eyes are going to be open. And we're going to want to connect to Hashem in a new way, and each other in a new way, and the world in a new way. And we're going to be so motivated to go to the Beit HaMikdash and to daven in the Beit HaMikdash. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the real hand clapping that's going to go on when we experience the Shekhinah, the feeling of the Shekhinah? You all know, if you've been to the Kosel, to the Western Wall, okay, the Kotel, you know that feeling, okay, the glimmer of that feeling. Can you imagine it just pouring over us and surrounding us? That's what it's going to be like. It's very, very uplifting and joyous. And we are going to, in this case, our inheritance, the pride of Yakov, our sages say that we are going to be in a position, just as we were many years ago, but far greater with the third temple, in which we are going to encourage the nations to live in their lands, okay, with good governance, with peace, with morality and prosperity. Our awakening is going to be their awakening and their blessing. It's such a beautiful, idyllic vision. And, you know, when we see the corruption and the craziness going on like we do today, it's out of control. We also see real glimmers of hope, not only for the Jews. We've been seeing our own glimmers of hope. We've been seeing open miracles throughout this time since October 7th. We see the unity. Please, Hashem, we shouldn't forget that unity. It's so important. We can, you know, lose our enthusiasm for it as time goes on. We see the caring of the Jewish people and love we have for one another and the appreciation we have for the goodness in the world at large. But we're also seeing moments of good from the world. I won't go into too much detail, but I actually listened to a news program. It wasn't a news program. It was a talk program between a few thinkers, and they were speaking in Canada. I don't want to go into too much detail, but somebody suggested I listen to it. And they all mentioned Hashem. They all mentioned God and how ultimately what's going on now, this was shocking to me because these are, you know, a secular philosopher, a former newscaster. They were all talking about how the breakdown, what we're seeing today is that people don't believe in God. I was so moved by this because people are getting it and the audience applauded. Okay. It's not something I would normally sit and listen to for so long, but I understand why my friend recommended it. And it was amazing. Okay. And okay. So Naomi also had the same experience. I'm wondering if it was the same thing. We'll talk about it afterwards. Okay. It was also someone with millions of subscribers. Okay. So anyway, why is the Beit HaMikdash called the pride of Yakov? This is also very interesting because the Shekhinah who dwells there is connected. Yakov is connected to the Shekhinah because he was the only patriarch that has his face, it says, etched into the Kisei HaKavod, throne of Hashem's glory. And that's the truest face of Israel and humanity is Yaakov, okay? Also, all the Adam and Eve and Abraham, the Akedah Yitzchak took place where the Beit HaMikdash is on Har HaMoriah. But Yaakov laid down the 12 stones there, which turned into one stone. And that's where he dedicated that as a monument to the site of the future Beit HaMikdash. Okay. He called it Beit El or Bethel in English. That's where that word comes from. And he said, this must be the house of Hashem, and this is the gate of heaven. So he did an establishment of that area that no one else did previously or after. Al-Sheikh says the first Beis HaMikdash is associated with Abraham, the second Yitzchak, and the third Yakov, which is why it's the pride of Yakov, whom Hashem loves forever. Okay. All right, let's continue. God willing, we're going to get through everything today. It's not too long. Allah Elohim Bisrua, Adonai Bikol Shofar. Okay. Hashem went up, he ascended with a blast. The Lord, okay, the Lord with the sound of the shofar. I should say Elokim ascended with the blast. I shouldn't say Hashem, I really want to be specific here. And Hashem with the sound of the shofar. When Elokim, who is the name of Hashem when we're speaking of Hashem's justice and judgment, okay? When he will rise up and execute judgment against Gog and Magog, the shofar will sound a blast, okay, the teruah, fulfilling the prophecy from our previous psalm, Psalm 46, which said, he said, I will be exalted among the nations, and then Hashem will be recognized as the Most High, okay, as we mentioned previously in this psalm, in Psalm 46. This is very important that we recognize Hashem's kingship, okay? I don't know that we have, the appreciation of it as much as we could, because if we accept that we have a king, we have loyalty to the king. And today we see the quality of monarchy has been dissolved. It used to be, I don't even think with the previous Queen of England, who's no longer here, I don't think even with her, it used to be that the monarchy in most countries, let's talk about England, had the power of life and death over people. They could say, that's it, you're done for this world. And it was hopefully a kingship, a monarchy of morality, justice, but also compassion. And that's what the kingships of this world are supposed to be modeled on. But we've lost that idea of kingship, human kingship. We've just lost it, okay? It's sort of lost from us, from this generation, even the previous generation. So I don't think we have an understanding or respect for it in the way that we would if we had been brought up with human kings. I think they do make a difference to us. As crazy as that sounds, I think seeing that and understanding that the pomp and circumstance has meaning behind it. Okay. So Hashem, Elokim ascended with the blast, and Hashem with the sound of the shofar. So we have a custom to blow the shofar each morning in Elul, which happens to be the date of Moshe's third ascent, third time he went up on Mount Sinai. This verse is said to remind us of the shofar blast sounded at Sinai because Elokim ascended, right? He went up. Okay. So that, what does that mean? Hashem is up. There's some kind of movement happening here. And it reminds us of Hashem and Moshe being up, being above us on Har Sinai. And it also reminds us of the shofar on Rosh Hashana. And our sages say that this is the long blast we will hear at the ingathering of the exiles, okay, when we all are gathered in. We all can just, oh, it was like a dream. We're home now. Everything's going to be okay. Everyone's going to flourish. Everyone's going to come around and be united and love one another and build a happy, peaceful world. Can you imagine it? May it happen speedily in our time, please, Hashem. Also, Ramban, Nachmanides says, the shofar is related to Shofar. Shofar means beauty. When a Jew hears the heartbreaking blast of the shofar, he or she is, what are we moved to do? To do tshuva, to come back to Hashem. We hear that sound. We hear that plaintive wail or that blast. And when a Jew says, Hashem, I want to return to you. Hashem, please, I'm coming to you. Please allow me to come to you. Okay. Then we become beautiful. We become truly beautiful. Okay. You see this in people. There are certain people who have a radiant, beautiful face. Rebbe Nachman was said to have this kind of face. And that the glow is on this person. We've all seen people like this. They're not just these rare tzaddikim. They're people who put Hashem before them. They remember Hashem. They return to him. And they become beautiful. They don't have to be physically beautiful. Something just changes and they become even physically beautiful. It's quite amazing. Now, in the past, and even today, the shofar is an instrument of war. People blew it, okay, just the same way people blew trumpets, okay? It's a war instrument. It's loud. It's rallying the troops. It's also giving them a signal. Different trumpet sounds have different signals, different shofar sounds. And whether this is the shofar that we hear today is a war like against a real enemy, meaning all enemies are real. We'll talk about internal in a moment. External enemy, okay, which is possible. When we hear the shofar blast, it is a reminder to us about our internal enemy. Okay, we have to keep that in mind. I know we're really focusing on the external of these Psalms because of the prophecy and the times we're living through, but it's not removed from what we're each going through internally. Each one of us is an olam. I want to remind you, you are a world unto yourself, an entire world. Okay, what's right about you is right about the world, and what needs fixing in the world. And it's not one or the other. Both, for most of us, have to happen simultaneously. Okay. All right. In the future, of course, the shofar is going to be absolutely an instrument of peace. Okay. All right. Let's continue with Zion, verse 7. Zamaru Elohim Zameru. Zamru Lamalkenu Zameru. So beautiful, right? Make music for Elokim. Make music. Make music for our King. Make music. Radak says that this is sort of telling us to make new melodies for Hashem. The kind of melody, says Shlomo Elkabatz, okay, who of course is the composer of Lecha Dodi, one of our greatest lyrics and melodies, the kind of melody, he says, where the root of this word zimra, zameru, make music, zimra, means a song arising from the soul. That's the kind of song we should be singing. Each of us has a song like this. I know someone who sings essentially, except for Shemona Esrei, who basically sings the entire davening. I occasionally sing parts of it to myself as well. If I don't force it necessarily, but something about actually singing and making music. However, we are told that the Zimra, this kind of song, also might specifically mean making music with an instrument rather than a song from the soul. So there's 2 points of view on this. Okay. What is this word? Zimra, the song or the making of music, or a specific type of music that has been made. This is related to the word zamira, which means pruning. It's a very famous analogy. I'm sure most of you have heard it before. Because when you make a song, on the simple level, you are choosing out the good and pruning away the bad notes. So you're choosing the good notes from the bad. Rebbe Nachman speaks about this in his lesson, aptly called Azamara, okay? Lesson 282 in Likutei Moharan. But it also means that you are making a song or making music with the good inside you, and you're pruning away the negative. Okay. There's a material way to do this, such as on Shabbat. You sing the Zemirot. Okay. You're singing the Shabbos Zemiros. You are pruning away the bad and bringing out the good. Okay. And they're so precious. Rebbe Nachman says you should always sing them at every meal. The ones that we are supposed to say at every meal, they're a type of prayer service. Okay. It's not just music. All right. And Azamra, okay, which is just the one of the foundational lessons, if not the foundational lesson of Breslov, the Rebbe quotes, I think it's Psalm 37. Azamra lelo kai be'odi. I will sing to Hashem be'odi. With a little bit of myself I have left. So what is this Azamra? With Azamra, we are what I would call singing the song of our soul. We are singing the song that comes from our good points. The way we sing this song or make this music might be to sing, but it also is an inner thought process in which we reflect on the good inside us. This is so important. I don't know about you, but I have so many moments where my flaws just, the things I've done, the mistakes I've made, sometimes I'm overwhelmed by them. And then I remember Azamra. That stuff is a distraction. Yes, we have to do tshuva, but that stuff is going to take us away from our song. What we need to do is focus on the beautiful notes inside us. Choose those notes and compose the song of our soul. Live how we can truly live as someone who has let the bad be pruned away, fall away, and we live by building on the strength of the good. And I think of it as maybe like a Bach variation, okay, or something like this, some music on a theme. And we choose the notes, and then we build themes around the notes, and we build more themes around the notes, and more and more and more, until we have a beautiful human being, which each of us is capable of being, every single one of us. Way more than we think we are capable of being. This is a reflective process. It's not, doesn't just take place during hitbodedut with talking. We also have to have hitbonenut, a kind of thinking and reflective silent meditation as well. It's also healthy. Okay, we're going to continue with verse 8. Ki melech kol haaretz Elohim, zamaru maskil. Because Hashem is king over all the earth, make music. Okay, so then maskil, what does this mean? It either means make music, maskil, make music, those people who are enlightened. If you're enlightened, make music. Okay, or make music maskil with wisdom and enlightenment embedded in it. So this is a very important message of Rebbe Nachman, okay? Rebbe Nachman says that the types of music we make and we listen to should be kosher. What do you mean kosher? What does that mean? It's such an interpretive word when we use it outside the bounds of food. It means more than appropriate, okay? It means the kind of music that will give us a connection, a kesher to Hashem, okay? It's the kind of music that is composed by, played by, and sung by people who have Hashem, the Jewish people, and peace of the world on their minds. Now, it's very hard to do, okay, to only listen to that kind of music. In this world, it's not always so easy, okay? I mentioned Bach. Certainly, Bach didn't have Hashem on his mind, certainly not in a Jewish way. Okay, all right. Yes, there's other types of music out there that are beautiful to listen to, okay? But what I would like to say is we can begin by refining our tastes in music, okay? And choosing music which at least doesn't openly conflict with Torah and with Torah values, okay? We have to find this balance. Now, there is something that we can do, and that is especially on Shabbat, says Rebbe Nachman, we can take a non-Jewish melody and we can put words to it, kosher words to it. Or we could just hum the non-Jewish melody in the context of singing beautiful melodies at the Shabbos table. Not everybody does this, but you can. So if you have a melody that all week long is, what do they call it? Ear candy? Is that the, I don't remember. Brain candy? I don't remember what they call it. Sing it out, save it for Shabbat, put words to it. I remember years ago, there were a couple of melodies that were stuck in my head from my teenagehood. Okay, it happens. And I began putting words to it about Moshiach, and I would sing it. And so now whenever I hear those melodies, if they do pop up in my head, we're all human, it happens, I immediately think of Moshiach, okay? So we're meant to refine ourselves in this regard, but only starting from where we're at. We can only do so much, okay? We all have, we're all from various backgrounds, okay? Some people were blessed to only be brought up with really holy Jewish music. If you were not so blessed, like me, do something with it that's positive and refine your tastes. Okay. All right, let's continue. We'll go to verse 9. Malach Elohim al Goyim. Elohim Yashav al Kisev Kadesho. Okay. Hashem reigns, actually, I shouldn't say Hashem. Elokim reigns over the people. Okay. And Elokim sits upon his holy throne. So Elokim's reign, Hashem's reign, will be incomplete until Moshiach. Then he will truly reign over the whole world, but he will rest his Shekhinah on the Beit HaMikdash. Now, in this verse, Elokim is mentioned twice, and it's very specific. It doesn't say Hashem. Okay, so we know that this is judgment and justice. Right now, we feel chesed from Hashem, compassion from Hashem, mercy from Hashem, but that doesn't preclude Hashem's justice and judgment. But a king has to rule with judgment, okay, with good judgment and with judgment and laws that make sense. So we understand from our sages that when Moshiach comes, there will be peace, there will be unity, there will be love, there will be compassion, there will be music, there will be joy and togetherness and good health and all these things. But the side of Hashem that we're going to see reigning over us, according to this verse, is a Hashem of judgment and justice. That's what will prevail at that time. It's very interesting. Okay, now we'll continue. Nidivei Amin Ne'asafu Am Elohei Abraham Ki Lelohim Magine Eretz Ma'od Na'ala. Okay. The nobles of the nations gathered. The nation of the God of Abraham, for Elokims are the shields of the earth. He is exceedingly exalted. Okay, now let's take this apart. Who are these nobles? So some say these are those of the nations who were, those of the non-Jewish nations who were martyred for the name of Hashem, who, like Avraham Avinu, actually was a convert technically, okay? Where in Parshas Yitro, as I mentioned, he, of course, was a convert. But what I immediately thought of was Avraham ben Avraham, Count Potocki, okay, who was a Polish aristocrat. His name was Count Valentine Potocki. Okay, he was a Polish aristocrat who converted to Judaism. It's a very beautiful story, and I encourage you to look it up, to read about him. He went off with a school friend. He told his parents, I want to see the world. Something was missing for him. He went from place to place. He decided, I want to, serve Hashem. I want to serve God. And he is, at that time, I don't know if Polish was just Catholic or more Orthodox. I don't know. But he rejected all the religions he found. And he said, Judaism is the true religion. And he converted, and he was exposed. He came home to his parents, and his parents, it seems that his parents exposed him. His mother was heartbroken. Why would you want to be? I give you everything. You're an aristocrat. You want to sit like a poor person and sit and learn the Talmud with those Jews? What are you, Meshuggah? But he did. I think he was actually either had a connection with the Vilna Gaon or was and was also a student of him, but he had a connection with the Vilna Gaon. And he was thrown in jail, okay, awaiting execution. And the Vilna Gaon wrote to him and said, I can do something. Vilna Gaon was a great Makubal, a great Kabbalist. He said, I can do something for you to get you off so you don't have to be killed. He said, or you can renounce your conversion. There's all kinds of things so you don't have to die. And this holy, beautiful neshama said, no, I want to be martyr for Hashem. I let them kill me. I want them to know that I lived with the truth and that this is the truth. And he was martyred. He was executed. And, in Judaism, we don't encourage martyrdom in this way. We certainly don't encourage it. But there are some precious, rare neshamas who find themselves in situations of martyrdom. I would say that every Jew who was killed in connection either on October 7th or with this war was killed al Kiddush Hashem. They were killed sanctifying Hashem's name because they were killed because they were Jewish. And a martyr is immediately taken straight up to Hashemayim. Okay, they don't have the suffering of Gehenna or anything like that. They're immediately, whatever it is, they're forgiven. Everything's wiped clean. And this idea is that look, we don't want it to happen. We really don't. Every day we say the Shema. The Shema is expressing a willingness. I'll give up all my money. I'll give up whatever you want, Hashem, including my life. That's really what the Shema is saying. Okay, I'll give up my soul for Hashem. And when we say it, we're supposed to really believe it. At the same time, by saying it with belief, we say it in order to, in a way, wipe away the need for us to do it. It's as if we've already done it, as if we've already martyred ourselves. That's how seriously we should say the Shema. Okay. It's not hard to do. You just have to remember to do it. Okay. Because even the Shema today, we're rushing through. Okay. Some also say about the nobles in this verse, it refers to the non-Jews, and some say the Jews who give tzedakah. Our sages say they truly belong to God since they shield the poor people with charity. And whether this refers to Gentile philanthropists or Jewish philanthropists who help poor people, okay, this verse also hints to them, because in our world, true nobility for a Jew is very interesting. It involves a lot of things. It involves sneeled, acting modestly. It involves humility. It involves always being respectful. It involves following the Torah. It involves so many things, but ultimately it really involves compassion for others, okay? Giving to others. And so that's what true nobility is. Okay. Moment. Okay. And so these people belong to God, and he is exceedingly exalted. He's exceedingly elevated. It's a reminder again and again about Elokim's exaltation, his being ascendant and ascendant over us. And yet he's down here on earth. So if we take this Elokim 7 times and we think about it, what we're really accepting here is the side or the aspect of Hashem that relates to us with judgment. Okay. And as we see, that judgment is actually very sweet. Do good and you belong to God. Okay. So I just think that's beautiful. Okay. Again, I would like to thank Esther Alagorovich for making these classes happen. Everybody, it's a big undertaking. We should always keep her in our tefillahs that she continues to do this, because it's a huge project. There are 150 Psalms. Some of them take 2 classes to complete. And I am going to turn off the video and we're all going to say Tehillim. Okay. Thank you.